Oh, there we go. Garland Nixon here with Matt Weinglass. He's the host of The Homeless Left on Rumble. He's also a filmmaker and an activist. And we got lots to talk about. Let's talk. Hello, hello. Yeah, we're here with Matt Weinglass. He's a great guy. He's an activist, does lots of good work, and you can check out his show, The Homeless Left, on Rumble. And so we're going to get going, Matt. Let's see, what do we got here? We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. We'll just do a remove, get rid of it so it ain't on Facebook. And we'll save changes. Maybe Facebook doesn't like every now and then Facebook doesn't like what you're talking about. Gee, fury at the ruling elite.
Oh.
Can't understand why Zuckerberg would be have a problem with that. But and they probably, look, let's face it, the very, very powerful people are, they're thinking French Revolution these days. At any rate, let's go. Let's get going here.
All right.
I didn't know what was coming. Of course, we watch this and we see the CEO of a healthcare company, the healthcare company that my healthcare is through. I also know I used to have my insurance for my health insurance license when I first retired from law enforcement. And I remember that this is like the biggest. United Healthcare is like the largest, most powerful one. They do all of this work with Medicare. I mean, they're monstrous, right?
Yeah.
And everybody knows this story. When I was studying to get my healthcare license, I'll never forget the guy who taught me, because you got to get a license for it. You got to take a course. And he said, Garland, let me tell you something. Insurance companies do two things: take risks and pay claims. He says, and insurance companies don't want to do two things: take risks and pay claims, right? So I see this guy gets shot, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And, was it a hit? What was this about? It goes by. And I had no idea what was coming. And then I hear they found the shooter. And then this guy, and then I go online, and these were not like crazy mean people. These were everyday, regular people. Were like, yeah, it's about time those bastards got what's coming. And I was quite frankly surprised in the immediacy by the outcome and by the response. But the more I thought about it and kind of evaluated, not from a moral perspective, yes, a person was shot, I'm opposed to violence, those kinds of things, but from a broader philosophical perspective, it started coming into focus what's going on here. Anyway, so Matt, let me get your thoughts on this whole thing. Let's go.
Yeah. So, Garland, thanks for having me. By the way, this is such an important conversation. We saw this in real time, and like you, I would say I wasn't as shocked, but it totally made sense to me why people were responding the way they were. The part that was harder to digest was that there were immediate pushback against those people and making them the problem. The reaction was the problem immediately. And you saw all this punching down on people saying, finally, we're having a conversation about healthcare. Now, obviously, there was some more, statements out there from people that weren't as, nice about it. And you could say that they got a little aggressive with their words in some cases. But overall, the sentiment was, finally, we're having a discussion about healthcare in the sense that these CEOs should be held responsible. They're the ones making millions and millions and millions of dollars off of people dying. I mean, let's be absolutely clear about this. This is a direct affiliation. This guy, this from United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, he was directly making his money off of denying people claims. And you talked about United Healthcare. This is your healthcare provider. This one was, out of all of them, the one that was denying more claims than any other company, and by double. I believe there was 32% that they were at as far as denying claims, which is double what I believe the average was like 16%. So they were double the worst one of all. So this guy represents the guy making the most money off of the most people being denied and therefore leading to their death. So you could say, it directly speaking, he's responsible for people dying, a lot of people dying. So of course the reaction was going to be, hey, there is something happening. People have had enough. We're at a point, we're at a breaking point. And I think that it is one of these moments where we take to the streets and we say, enough is enough in whatever way that looks. And then we can talk about, well, violence is obviously wrong and we can have that discussion, but something is definitely happening.
Oh, we can't hear you all of a sudden. Say
Oh,
something.
oh no,
Okay, yeah, you're back. You're good. Okay,
okay.
just for a second, your voice was gone.
Okay.
Okay, but and here's the other part of it too. Now, and this, and having, like I said, having been in the healthcare industry for a few years, right? That's 3 or 4 years, and then I just maybe 2 or 3 years, and I got out of. I didn't like it. Here's the other part of it too. We have a discussion about people dying, right? When you get in the healthcare industry, you start learning in 3 other words: quality of life, right? So what also happens a lot is this. You have people who have some sickness, illness, injury, whatever, right? And if they got a particular medicine, they could have a normal life. But they're denied that medicine. So they're still alive, but they're in a wheelchair, they're blind, they can't hear, all of these things to make their lives a living hell, difficult to live. They can't provide for their families, they're now homeless, they're bankrupt. Well, they've got to have this or they're going to die. They've had a house or a farm that was passed down from their grandfather to their father to them, but they got to sell the farm or die, and their whole family. So there's one side of it is that we discuss are the people that die, right? Which is terrible, right? But there's this vast, huge, gigantic group of people, apparently such as this guy who had all kinds of problems from his healthcare issues, who live in misery, whose entire family lives in misery, who lose everything they have. Think about this. The number of, I forgot how many hundreds of thousands of bankruptcies, 600 and some thousand, 100,000, 640,000, I think is the numbers I saw, of bankruptcies each year, right? And what are a lot of these about? Yes, a lot of them are about people who don't have healthcare coverage. A lot of them are also people who have coverage. I remember a woman who needed a shot that was $12,000 a month, right? Yeah. So there are people that go bankrupt. So it's not just death. It's that let me put it a different way. These companies make exorbitant profits from causing death and misery of the people who pay them. Not random. They don't go around and kill a random person on the street. The people who pay them. And oftentimes, how about this? They pay them for 5, 10, 15 years. I've had United Health for 15 years. And they finally get sick after you've collected all this damn money off of me. I finally get sick and say, hey, can I get these pills? Nope. But my doctor said I need them. This is what they'll do. I saw this with my own eyes. Try this one first, then try that one, then try. So they'll try to get you to try cheaper ones, even though the doctor said, hey, and doctors will say that won't work. You got to go to this. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, we won't cover it until you try this first. The person tries the first one. It doesn't work, but their kidneys stop working because they didn't, you know what I mean? It's just, Absolutely. They cause hell and misery on people's lives.
Yeah. So that's how the system is designed. Like you're saying, we're basically, we have one problem that you treat it with a particular drug that then causes 4 or 5 more problems. And then you have to get treated for those problems. And that is the endless cycle that we're all in. And the doctors themselves, I mean, these are drug dealers. These are drug dealers who say, let me sign you up for something else. It looks like you have this happening now. You need to get on this right away. And they're getting their kickbacks. They're getting their bonuses. And this is something that I don't think a lot of us realize how bad it was until these last 4 years with the COVID stuff that went down. And we understood that, like, there was just the massive amount of pushing and mandates. And we could talk about mandating and how who's benefiting from this? Who's benefiting from every shot, every drug? There's a whole paper trail. We can see this just looking at the numbers. And so when you're having these discussions with your doctors, these are not honest discussions. It's like you're talking to a cartel. You're talking to a drug dealer. Like, hey, let me try you this. Let me try you on this one. The first one's free. That kind of stuff. So we have to start being a lot more skeptical going into these these conversations with medical professionals, and we have to start treating them like used cars dealers. We have to start treating them like that. Like, I don't know, I'm going to go get a second opinion. I'm going to have to get a third opinion on this. Because we know the used cars dealer is trying to make their bonus. They're going to do everything they can to sell you that car. So we have to start looking at the healthcare industry, unfortunately, the same way. We're walking into a used car dealership every single time to get an analysis, to get a whatever. Tell me what's going on. Okay, that's your opinion. I'm going to go get another one first before I make any decisions.
The other thing is this, and I'm going to tie this to COVID because I think it has to be, because what we're talking about is kind of similar, if not the same thing, and that is, and I always get back to this. Am I to believe that the authorities are looking out for my best interest? You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. And that's what you were just saying. When you go to see a doctor and you say, this hurts, and the doctor, this doesn't work, this isn't going right, and the doctor says, I think this medication will help you. You are supposed to take for granted that doctor, based on his Hippocratic oath, do no harm. He's operating as, you're supposed to think that doctor is operating as my advocate. He's looking out for my health, and he's doing everything he can. He's going to do everything he can to help get me well. You don't want to realize that the doctor is going to get trips to the Virgin Islands or some such crap if he gives you a bunch of prescriptions that are no good for you.
Yeah.
And during COVID, I get back to this, and a lot of people had mistrust of the policies that were told, whichever policy it was, all of them. We questioned the policies and we had mistrust of the policies, because I think then we had started to realize, I'm supposed to believe that these people are my advocates and they're telling me to stay 6 feet apart because they want me to be healthy or this. And I think these health insurance companies is one that helped us to understand it. Once people started saying, I no longer believe that the ruling elite are looking out for my best interest, you're naturally going to question their policies, because you don't believe they're doing it for you. You believe they're doing it for either them or their donors.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Garland, there's still a lot of people who have doubled down on their healthcare providers, and they're still saying, trust the science, trust the consensus, the scientific consensus and the medical consensus. And, and Dr. Fauci is the greatest thing ever. And don't listen to any naysayers, and anybody who has a second opinion, don't listen to them. Don't listen to RFK Jr. Don't listen to Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Even though there's other ways, like when we talk about, getting an estimate, you're going to go get a second opinion. Medicine used to be that way. I think we've taken a major back step, because this idea that you have this consensus in science, it becomes very religious. It becomes like faith-based. It's like this, just trust us. We know what we're doing. Don't question it. If you question it, you're out. Like, if you want to be in the club of the good guys, you gotta listen to what we tell you and don't question it. And that's not how science is supposed to work. Science is supposed to work. You're supposed to ask questions. You're supposed to have debate. That's how it's supposed to work. And I don't know why a lot of people took a back step. Now, you're saying we know that a lot of people woke up in these last 4 years, but there are certainly a lot of people doubling down on it, and and they're all in, and they're gonna listen to the next recommendation, whatever the next thing is that they come out with. And we can go down that rabbit hole, as far as like hearing what Dr. Peter Hotez has been saying, as far as like we have a lot of new stuff coming down the pipeline on January 21st. I mean, these are things that we need to be very conscious of and be very skeptical of. Not just like, okay, tell me the next thing you want me to shoot into my arm, or tell me the next thing. When's the next lockdown? No, we have to be more skeptical. So I think these conversations are important to have. And that's why we're doing this right now.
Let me do this. You're frozen up. I'm going to remove you from the studio, sign out, and then sign right back in. A lot of times that works. You're frozen. Okay. So I'm going to remove you from the studio. Just sign out and sign right back in with that link. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. So Matt will be right back. But we're talking about what we're talking about the CEO shooter and how that issue, how that fits in. Oh, there we go. Let's see if we got Matt back. All right. There we go. That's much better. Yeah, we got
Okay.
a clearer path. I don't know why sometimes it does that. I think it's StreamYard
It
itself.
is, you know what? We've been having this problem on StreamYard on our show on The Homeless Left too, and we've heard other people as well. So something's going on there right now,
You
but
know what
we'll,
I think part of
yeah,
it may be?
yeah.
StreamYard is really getting popular. Two things are
Mm,
happening. StreamYard's getting popular, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's because people are leaving the mainstream media.
mm.
And now everybody's doing, and I just think it's flooding. What's happening is people, and this is part of this discussion, people are leaving the mainstream media in droves, and they're watching the Homeless Left, and they're watching the Duran and Jimmy Dore and who the hell ever, right? Pasta, you name it, right?
Yep.
They're watching our buddy Steve Poikin and his
Yes.
crew. But here's the bottom line: people are sick, and I think it's all the same thing. It comes down to, do they trust the doctors anymore? Do they trust the healthcare insurance companies? Do they trust the media? These are all, I think what's happening is they're becoming representations of the ruling elite. And we are in a crisis now. The ruling elite has a crisis of legitimacy. And so I think this is a really a major example of that crisis of legitimacy that seems to be scaring the crap out of the ruling elite. You know, they've just been doing anything they can. Want that? Screw these people. We'll make every dime we can off of them. They're sheep to us. We'll eat them whenever they're dispensable. Who cares about them? And they never thought at some point the sheep would get mad enough to bite back. And again, I don't know this guy. Do I want anybody to walk up behind any random person and shoot him in the back and kill him? No, that they could have kids or anything. But I have to understand that what happens if somebody's saying war, let's go to war with country X. You know what could happen? Somebody whose kid gets killed in that war could go back and be waiting for that person who's a media personnel who's been screaming for war, and somebody's child dies when we attack the next country. And that person sees that media person and says, "You son of a bitch, you got my son killed." And they go, that's what I think. Now, I'm not saying this is a positive or a negative thing. That's the direction that you go in when working class and working poor people have no way to address, to seek redress for their issues.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's exactly right. And we should be expecting this moment to have happened precisely. Now, look, we can also look at the next part. I think is important to look at, Garland, is what happened in the last week. So this incident occurred a week ago today. We happened to, we had our show last Thursday and we covered it immediately. We saw everything that went down. As far as what they had discovered, we saw the bullet casings. I don't know if you saw that the bullet casings had a very specific message on it.
Mm-hmm.
Deny, defend, defund. I believe there were the 3 Ds that came off
Something
of a
like
book.
that, yeah.
Yes. And so there was
Depose. Was it depose? I think it was
depose. That was
depose.
it. Yeah. Deny, defend, depose. This was coming right off of a book written about challenging the healthcare system. So the message was laid very clear on those bullet casings. And from that point on, we understood that there was certainly something bigger going on than what I think the initial story was, that, hey, let's let the media, their knee-jerk reaction was to keep this not about a bigger discussion of healthcare. This just happened to be a random, targeted thing, maybe the guy's personal life, maybe some sort of adultery thing, or they wanted to keep all those options open. But we saw those bullet casings and we said, no, this is definitely something bigger going on. The next thing, though, that got my attention, Garland, was the time frame after that was it's very bizarre to me that they could find this guy in such a short period of time. And that you look at the magnitude of New York, the crimes, the homicides, right? So they have like 30,000 unsolved homicides right now, like currently, that are unsolved. And they could go and get this one to be their number one priority. So you look at that, you go, why? How does this guy get this elite get this just an enormous amount of extra protection and just this like vast difference of approach of anyone else who has a homicide that has not been solved. And they find this guy, and you look at this, the circumstances, it's very, very bizarre that he just happens to be in this McDonald's wearing the same clothes from 5 days earlier. And he's sitting there, he's got the gun on him. He's got the manifesto on him. All these things are just look very suspicious to us. And we can go down that whole path as well. But I just think like you just don't see these type of investigations go this way with any other case. And so the whole thing just has a very weird a vibe to it from my vantage point, Garland. And again, like the media is going to do their knee-jerk reaction. They're going to be punching down. They don't want to have this larger conversation. And anybody else who is wanting to have this conversation is also going to be punched down on. And we're seeing that. We've been seeing that all week long. Anybody that wants to have this conversation, no, we can't have it. And then you see this split happening between the left and the right. When this should not be a split. We should all be on the same side about this. This doesn't seem like a political issue. Everybody has healthcare issues right now. Everybody has insurance claims that aren't being met. People have full coverage and they're not getting their needs met, and family members are suffering. This should not be a divisive issue. Why are people coming at each other right now when we should all be asking the same questions? We should all be just as suspicious, and we should all be wanting to have some major changes done with our failed healthcare system. And so that's the thing I'm looking at. Why the divide right now? And who's controlling that divide if that's something that is being manipulated by the elite?
Well, let me say this, as far as investigations, as a person who was formerly chief of the Division of Investigations for a police department, a lot of times the reason one crime is solved and the other is not is the amount of resources that are put towards that crime. Okay, Garland Nixon or some schlump, some guy bops me in the head with an old bowling trophy at 5th and Elm, right? They don't give a shit. They're like, hey, look into that. They assign an investigator. He goes there. He looks into it. He looks around a little bit, takes some pictures. Maybe there's a crime scene investigation. And there's like some guy, like they put something on TV. Call us if you see anything on this. And if you don't, who cares? And that's it, right? Now, the CEO of such and such gets killed. They come in. Guess what they do? We need a team of investigators. Here's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to have a 5-block radius. Every Ring camera, every store that has a video, we want to get it all. And we want to assign people to watch video. And we want to see when this guy, oh, look, he came out right there. Oh, he's going in this direction. We want to assign people, because a lot of these stores, they have cameras looking around, gas stations, cameras looking right out the front. You're going to go to that and you say, let me see this. You're going to go, the cops are going to go in. They're going to see, they can pin it down. They can say he left out of here within 5 minutes. Give me the camera between this time. And you start following this guy with the camera. Now you get tags. You get that he saw it. See what I mean? Why? Because you put 10, 15 people on this case, and you got a crime scene lab and everything they find, and you got people that are dedicated to watch. You see what I mean? And you solve that crime. The Garland Nixon got bopped in the head with a bowling trophy at 5th and Elm. You put out a piece of paper. Has anybody seen anything? And nobody's chasing down video. Nobody's saying, that video, some of this video is going to be gone within 12 hours. We got to get people on it. We want you to work 24-hour shifts if you have to. Get this. That crime gets solved. So oftentimes, the difference between a crime getting solved and not getting solved is a poor person got killed randomly or whatever, and they don't give a shit, and they don't assign anybody to it. Judge so-and-so's son got beaten up. Assign a whole team to it, and they'll find the guy who beat up Judge so-and-so's son, but they won't find the guy that smacked Garland Nixon in the head and killed him. You know what I'm saying? And again, what do we get? We get a separate set of rules and policies for I saw in law enforcement, somebody called in, Congressman so-and-so called in and said he had a problem in his neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. You know what they do? Send a cop out there, send 2 people out there. We're going to have whoever's on patrol from now on is going to sit on that corner up the street from Congressman so-and-so's house to watch out for any for speeders, people driving too fast in the community. They'll sit a cop there to watch that. Meanwhile, we had 5 shootings in this community. Well, we don't have anybody to send. They're all in Congressman so-and-so's house looking out for speeders because God forbid, they could upset somebody in the community who's trying to sleep and the exhaust is too loud on somebody's car. That's the way it works.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. So I understand you make a valid point. More resources on ones that they care about more, but that it's another reflection on the brokenness of our society and this elite privilege that certain people get that other people don't. And so we can see it in real time that you got this guy in captivity. He's got his arraignment. He's going to be pleading not guilty, and we're going to watch this thing closely and see. The manifesto itself, though, looks a little odd. It's very, it's very well put together. There's no misspellings. There's also he gives a shout out to the feds in it. Very bizarre. Says, hey, you guys are doing a good job. And you're just like, that's interesting. So definitely want to keep my eyes on this one and see how things unfold from here. But yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting to see. Well, because a lot of times when these things happen, my first thing when he was shot, I thought to myself, well, it was hit. And I thought, well, whoever the guy, usually they find the person dead. They committed suicide or whatever. You know what I mean? And I thought, okay, watch, we're going to find this guy committed suicide. He's alive. So now what will be interesting is what we hear. I want to hear from him. I want this guy to say something, or I didn't do it, or I did do it, or this is why I did it. You know what I mean? Because the other part of it is this. It is quite possible that that it's what it seems, that a guy got pissed and he went and he shot the CEO of the company because he got screwed over. But over the last several years, we've seen so much weird stuff that you got to see. I'm not, let me put it to you like this. I'm not a person that when I see the obvious, I say, it couldn't be that. It has to be, everybody was behind it. It has to be MK Ultra. It has to be the CIA. It has to be. No, here's what the way I look at it. It is possible that it is perfectly what it appears, that a guy got pissed off and he went and he shot the head of the company. That is a possibility. But we can't rule out all other possibilities until we have, to me, the error that people make is ruling things out.
Yeah.
It's just as foolish to rule out that there could be a whole hell of a lot more to this than it could be nothing like it appears. Yeah. But it's just as foolish to rule out that it's possible that is, for lack of a better way, a routine murder where a guy got pissed off and killed. We don't know. So I think to say, oh no, it couldn't possibly be that this what it appears to be, it could, but it could very well be nefarious intent, clandestine activities, and all that kind of stuff. God only knows what it could be. But as I said, but it's possible. And I'll put it like this. I wouldn't be shocked in any way in this day and age to find out that somebody got screwed over by a healthcare company and finally had enough and got pissed off and went and acted out in a violent manner. I, for one, would not be shocked at all to find out if that were the case. But equally, I wouldn't be shocked if it was God only knows what else. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a great approach to not just this topic, Garland, but to everything. This is how we have to be. We have to be, skeptical. We have to be open to all possibilities and not just jump on the first thing. So I like that approach. I think it's something that, we have to apply today because nothing is what it seems. Name the topic in the last 4 or 5 years, name a topic, January 6th, COVID. There's so many, well, some of us know stuff a little sooner than others because we're paying attention, but like the general public, if you're not paying attention every day and you see the headline, my suggestion is just take it with a grain of salt and go, okay, what else is to this? If we all just kind of train ourselves to do this, regardless of how much you spend time, like we spend more time than the average person looking at stuff and really researching and diving in, but just go in off the first headline, say, that's interesting. What are they not telling us? Let me hear some more. What else are they not telling us? Let me hear some more. If we all did that, we'd have a lot more power as a society And they'd have to try a lot harder to pull a fast one on us if we all just brought that healthy skepticism to everything.
Yeah, and it's like this. One of the things I think that is important now to do is to, and doggone you frozen again. All
Oh,
right, I'm gonna
yeah.
unfortunately, yeah, you're completely frozen. I'm
Okay.
gonna toss you again, come back on. It looks like we get 10 or 15 minutes out of it each time. So I'm gonna remove you out and just sign back in. Let's do that again. Okay, there we go. Matt will be back in a second. But and for those in the chat, I think, in my opinion, that you have to keep an open mind. And an open mind means it could always be what it seems. But an open mind also, yeah, there you go. It's weird. Maybe we get 10 or maybe we'll look, maybe we'll just have to get where we every 10 or 15 minutes we sign you out and back in. But
So Garland, I saw a message on the StreamYard as I was coming in, and it says we're having problems with the Facebook connection right now, and it might affect your live streaming. So you were saying about a Facebook issue earlier.
Yes, it said that.
So that's a direct problem. It says
Okay.
there's a warning on StreamYard saying that right now. So this might have to do with that.
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah, I can't imagine that anyone would want to throw a monkey wrench in these streams about this. Is it interesting? I'm always suspicious. I'm always suspicious because I've had things happen when I'm talking about particular issues, But at any rate, yeah, I think it's important because now let me go to this. Let me go to COVID.
Okay.
COVID changed the world in a lot of ways. And I think one of the ways it changed the world was there were a lot of people who I think trusted the system.
Yeah.
Right. They really trusted the system. And when COVID stopped, it started, and people like me, I imagine you were like, well, I don't know. Let's look a little closer, right? And the more that we said, let's look closer, the more they pushed back and said, don't look, right?
Yes.
And then there were still a lot of people like, you guys are a bunch of crazy conspiracy theories. But bit by bit, I had somebody come to me and say, out of a group of people who they all tried to get me to do a certain thing that will go unnamed, and I decided we're on YouTube. I said, I ain't doing that certain thing, pal. Not me. I ain't that type, right? Oh, you ought to do it, Garland. It'll protect you. Yeah, okay, but that certain thing ain't down. I ain't doing it, right? But you can if you want to. And I had one of those people come back to me a couple years later, recently, within the last several months, and say, out of our group, you were the only one smart enough not to do that certain thing. To which I said, it had nothing to do with intelligence. Yeah. That's one way to put it. I said, but it was a lack of trust for the ruling elite. And to me, that was a big part of it. You had to believe that they were doing that to look out for your best interests. And I never believe they're looking out for our best interests. So I was like, yeah, I don't trust these people. In fact, one guy was like, we had a guy, doctor, it might have been Dr. Shiva, Dr. somebody, something like that. One of those guys on a show, we interviewed him.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, what you should take is vitamin D3 and this and that and all that and blah, blah, blah. And the government should just send people this every month and send you your supply and you take them. And I say, I'm with you, pal, on the D3 and all of that. One problem. He said, what's that? I said, if the government sent it to me, I'd throw it in the trash and I'd go to the store and I'd buy it myself. I have so little trust for them that even if they came up with the right answer and they sent me the right stuff because they sent it, I'd be like, years later, we're going to find out that wasn't vitamin D3 that they sent us, that it was, or if it was, it had like metal shavings in it because they, the guy got the contract who was a cousin of Senator so-and-so, and he could save money by using metal shavings or whatever. And that everybody that took it had metal in their testicles or something. You know what I mean? That's where I was. Total lack of trust.
Yeah. No, you mentioned this intelligent issue. It's so interesting because I looked at this very closely over those first few years, and just to see what type of person was saying no, what type of person was taking that step back, and it's really hard to figure out that qualify that group of people, because it was all types of people, right? You had religious, like very religious based people that just had some sort of feeling that it wasn't in line with them spiritually. You have, atheists were also okay with saying, you know what, I'm good. This intelligent factor, what level of education? You had people that with very low education levels that were saying no. You had people very high education levels that were saying no. Look at the people who said yes. Very intelligent people, like very well versed medical doctors, and just people who's very high end intelligence, IQs, book smarts. They fell for it. They took it. So what makes this person, like you, like me, like a lot of our viewers and people watching, what makes us, what is the thing? Is you mentioned mistrust. I think that's a huge part. You know what else it is? I think it's a little bit of courage, because you can't learn courage in a book, right? You can't learn, it's not something that's given to you. It's something I don't know. I think you obtain it somewhere in life. So maybe we all have a certain point in life that we had an aha moment before 2020, 2021. And maybe it stuck with us, and it kind of came out when we needed it. That's what kind of where I concluded. There must be something in a personal way that we all experienced someplace in life where we said, we need to pull this out right now. And that's what I did. The same thing you did. I said, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to watch. I need more information. I'm not feeling this. Where everybody else, and I'm here in Hollywood, everybody, I'm telling you, Garland, everybody in the production entertainment community, we're lining up. I want to be first up. I can't wait to do my civic duty. Matt, when are you gonna get in line? I go, I'll watch from here. And that looked like I was being the one that was afraid. No, I think it was some courage. It took courage to do that. So yeah, it's an interesting introspection to at this point, 4 or 5 years removed from it, look back at it and say, how did we get to where we are? And then what can we do in the future if this happens again? And are there going to be other people that obtain that courage or obtain that insight now and will be with us and be more skeptical and more, wait a minute, what's going on here? So hopefully more people will be like us.
Well, I think that what we're looking at now and I got to put those two things together. And though that is crap, there it goes again. Frozen. Can you say something?
Yeah, I'm talking.
That's weird. Okay, we're going to do it again. Okay, we're going to try Matt. He'll be right back. It only takes a second. This is a pain in the neck, but apparently there's something to do with stream. There we go. Yeah, we'll keep doing it because it's important that people see. We want the stream to be as good as possible, so it only takes 30 seconds to do that. We'll do it. The reason I brought up, even maybe the main reason I brought up COVID, because I think it's relative. I think it's relative to people leaving the mainstream media. The loss of trust for the traditional institutions. When that happened, you had the traditional institutions, which were academia. You had me. I don't know if you know, I was on the national board of directors for the American Civil Liberties Union, right?
Yeah.
I resigned in protest. They did an op-ed on the New York Times, and they said, they use safe and effective and all of that. And I was like, wait a minute. Pfizer's website says we are collecting data to evaluate the long-term safety and efficacy. How can you say it's safe, a legal organization, when the people that make it say we're still trying to see if it's safe? We're still collecting data. I resigned, right? But again, all these traditional organizations, their job was to question stuff. The government said it, let's do it, right? People are leaving the mainstream media in droves. The Democratic Party wiped out. I'm not saying Trump is good. I'm not doing a judgment on Trump, good, bad, or different. I'm saying people saw him as something different. And they voted, either they stayed home or they voted for him. They wanted something different. Whether they got it or not remains to be seen. That's a different question, right?
Yeah.
All of this, and let me add this. The Democrats, they're lost. They want, ever notice, they won't talk about COVID.
No.
I know people, I have a particular friend who said, I'm not supporting them after COVID. You know why? This particular person was angry and said this: they fired people. People lost their jobs. And that really pissed this person off. And that's why they're like, I'm done. You notice of all the things they talked about and why they lost, all this self-serving bullcrap, they won't talk about the effect that COVID had and that lockdowns. 40% of all Black businesses closed.
Yeah.
And they lost a lot of Black voters. I gotta say, economically, that was part of it. You know what I'm saying? People are unhappy. Homeless people all over the place that weren't here before, after the lockdowns and COVID and the economic destruction. What's interesting is they will not in any way talk about the possibility that they lost partially because of COVID, or that there are any connections at all, or their health related policies, Matt.
They don't have to talk about these things because they have their voter base is, they're already hardwired to just go along with their very simplistic narrative they've had ingrained in them since 2016. We lost because of Trump. We lost because of racism and sexism and Putin and Bernie bros. I was a Bernie bro back in 2016. I'm the reason Hillary lost, So, even Bernie was up again in 2020, and he was only up in the polls because of Putin. And he even said it himself. It's Putin. Putin's the reason I'm ahead in the polls. And all of a sudden Biden was our candidate. So this time around, although this is out of the last 3 elections, Garland, this one is the most obvious one. I mean, we have to do a lot more work showing people the paper trail of 2016, the paper trail of 2020. A lot of more stuff happened behind the scenes, and we have to kind of show it to people. This one happened right out in broad daylight. And so they're getting so cocky with this idea that our own base won't even challenge. They won't even question. They're ready to blame racism, sexism. I think misogyny. Latin men are now misogynists. That's why we lost. Never questioning this very, very long list of problems. And you mentioned COVID. Obviously, that's one of the reasons. Duh. But no one's going to talk about that none of the voters are going to talk about that. None of them are going to say, hey, maybe we should have done something better with that, or maybe we could have apologized to people. Nothing about Gaza, right? I mean, the list is so long. Just the democracy element alone. Isn't that enough to say we deprived you of a primary? We anointed this woman. You knew nothing about her. We just told you to vote for her. Shut up and vote. And here's some celebrities on a stage with her. So they won't even talk about that part. So why would they even mention COVID now? So again, it's the voters that have been brainwashed and conditioned to stay in line and keep blaming it on racism and sexism. And then they never, ever, ever have to talk about real issues and how the Democratic Party has intentionally let the voters down every single time. And they're doing it out in the open now. It's not even behind closed doors. It's right in your face. And until the voters wake up and say, maybe we should hold you accountable. That's how politics is supposed to work. You're supposed to hold the people you elect accountable. It's so easy to talk crap on the opposition, on the people you don't like. That's easy. What you need to do as a voter is hold the people you elect accountable. You say, we voted for you to do this, Biden. We voted for you in 2020, and you did nothing that you promised. You did everything wrong, and we are mad at you, and we need to punish you for that. If you don't account for this, we're going to not vote for you. That's how politics is supposed to work. I think Lawrence O'Donnell said it best back in 2010. He said the only way the Democratic Party is ever going to do anything for you, because they don't have to. The only way they'll ever do anything for you is you have to prove to them that you're capable of not voting for them. But again, people that are brainwashed in this Democratic cult just don't understand that concept.
Another part that I think is important in the context of this discussion is, okay, people are so furious if this is what it seems, that they're literally shooting the ruling elite. Okay. The Democrats really, and over the last several years, have really been happy to take the position as we are the defenders of the system. Right? The intelligence agencies. Can you believe Trump didn't trust the intelligence agencies? Oh, he didn't. And I'm like, what the hell did I hear you people say? Can you believe that Trump didn't entrust his own intelligence agencies? And I'm like, why don't you call JFK and RFK? Ask them what they think about trusting the intelligence agencies, right? And they really position themselves as the defenders of the status quo. as the defenders of the intelligence agencies, the defenders of imperial empire, foreign policy, the war machine. You know what I mean? They set themselves up. We are the defenders of the ruling elite, and we're going to keep things going as they are. Is it any shock that people were like, our lives are hell? You know what I mean? I'm riding along and there's homeless, there's tents. I'm riding down the road and I'm seeing tents. I grew up, I never saw tents. The area that I live in, I've lived in this area my whole life. I not only did I never see homeless people, it never dawned on me. That's something you see other places. You're not going to see homeless people in this area. That we just don't have homeless people. There's people have houses and it's a suburban area and there's, you know what I mean? I know homeless people. And now there's like areas where you go there and there's people wandering around. There's tents in the woods and there's homeless encampments around. You know what I mean? So if you position yourself as the defender of the status quo, and the status quo becomes untenable, and now you have people looking at that little homeless encampment and looking at their check and saying, I don't know if I can keep from being in that homeless encampment next week. They're not going to support the status quo of the elite. And again, I don't know what Trump is. We'll find out. All people did was they said, well, any place is better than here, and they voted for Trump, or they stayed the hell home.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm frozen again. Should I get out?
There we go. Okay, there we go. He'll be right back. Sorry about that, you all. We got to play this game where he jumps in and out, but it seems to be where there we go. It seems to be working. We get 10 or 15 minutes out of it, and we can keep going.
Yeah.
Anyway, your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I heard all that. No, this is one of those things. I'm sorry. Can you get the end of that last thing you said so I can
basically I was my point was the Democrats positioned themselves as the defenders of the status quo, the elite, the intelligence agencies. It was like everything's just fine.
Yeah.
Vote for us and we will continue as things are. And to me, that's like, yeah, because you guys only interact with wealthy and powerful people who everything's are just fine for. The rest of the people out here, they're not fine. And this ain't a good time to position yourself as a defender of the status quo if you want to get elected.
Yes. So this old adage, which I understand it. I was on the ground. I used to work, I used to work for the Democratic Party. I would work for, every 4 years, I'd be knocking on thousands of doors, for them, telling them we're the party that wants your vote to count. They're the bad guys. You blame everything on the Republicans. And there was a whole like a blueprint for how you can convince a voter to get to the polls that we got your back. The other party hates you. We love you. And so all of those tactics that we knew the Republicans were doing all those times. I mean, the John Kerry campaign, that was a great one because we were knocking on doors everywhere. We were in Michigan. We were in Florida. We're telling people we have to take back the other party. They're the war party. They're the ones that are bombing the crap out of Iraq. We have to, we're for the people. They want to suppress your vote. We want your vote to count. So all these things get people to vote. And, you fast forward to now, you're just like, man, I feel a little like ashamed for going around and having these conversations with people, telling them that it was only one party that was against you, when really both parties are 100% against you. And so for us to be elevating one all that time. So look, I understand, like, it's hard to let that go. It really is. I know a lot, and a lot of my friends here in Hollywood, they're still having a hard time letting that go. They still want to believe that all of our problems are because of the red states and the red politicians. But the blues they're working so hard. They're waking up every morning and they're just thinking about ways they can help us. Well, look at California. California, you mentioned homelessness, Garland. That says it right there. We have homeless people under every single bridge of this state right now. This is the most we have the biggest homeless problem in the entire country right now. And this is a super blue state. Every single power position is done is held by a blue candidate. So a blue politician. So at some point you're going to have to pull that curtain back and go, what is happening in California? If it was really about defeating the Republicans and letting the blues show that they're about the people, then wouldn't our state be flourishing right now? No. we have just as many. We have the worst problem with homelessness. We have the people getting kicked out of all their houses, but we have the job problem. People not getting paid a living wage. We have the healthcare problem. We have every single problem you can imagine in California. Like times it by 10 for the average of every state. So there's no way to explain that. At some point, people are gonna have to wake up and say it's both parties that are against us, and we have to be able to fight back against them equally, not just take the side of the blues and be convinced that they're gonna do something better. They're gonna try harder next time. No, enough is enough. And I'll bring up the abortion issue. I think that's another very obvious one. And a lot of people, they get in the street for women's rights every 4 years. It's the Democrat, it's their go-to. It's their little carrot they dangle, right? So they dangle the carrot of abortion. They say, hey, the other side's going to stop it. We need women's rights, so vote for Kamala. They had no idea that we had this healthcare bill, this equal rights amendment that was on Joe Biden's desk. It's there right now. And they could sign it right now, but they don't understand that that's sitting there right now. It's only being dangled as a carrot to say, "Hey, you got to vote for Kamala," or the other side's they're gonna topple women's rights. Well, you could have codified Roe v. Wade. You had plenty of time to do it. Obama and Joe Biden both ran on it. They're going to codify Roe v. Wade, and then they don't. And then Democrats keep falling for it. Enough is enough. Stop blaming the Republicans for your party is the one that's screwing you. Your party is the one that's deceiving you, that's manipulating you, using your feelings against you, using your feelings of women's rights and supporting people's rights and equal rights. They're using those feelings against you, and it's about time we stood up against it.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is important before we go, they can't possibly talk about Gaza as a part of it. I was talking to a guy the other day, just this weekend, and he said, yeah, and he's from New York City, and he's like 30, and he says, all of my 30 and under friends, I talked to him, and I'm like, you vote for the Democrats? Like, nah. He's like, why? He says, and all of them said Gaza. And I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. I knew a lot of younger people. Gaza was like, screw this. This is messed up, man. This needs to stop. You're killing people, and you're like, this is what I'm seeing is horrible. Okay. And they won't look, there's misogyny. Joe Biden should have dropped out earlier. They'll have those kinds of discussions, but they won't have a discussion about Gaza. And I think here's what happened. It was a mask off moment. Look, and we've all had this. We've had like a friend or somebody we're hanging out or we're going out to dinner with or whatever, right? And you see the person do one thing and you look and you're like, man, that's, to be frank, that's fucked up. And you realize I could be friends with that person, man. That's a messed up thing. I don't want to hang out with somebody that would ever do or say that. That's over the line, right? And see, we're going around the world. We're standing for democracy. We got to stand up for the little guy around the world. Why the trans people in this country, they're being mistreated. So let's just bomb the whole country and take the oil on behalf of the trans people, right? They always got a bull crap. But when people looked at that and they're like, holy crap, there's like literally a genocide going on, millions, tens of thousands of women and children. I don't want to hear about your reasons. You have to stop that. And you guys are making excuses and you don't even care and you think it's okay. And it was at a point where I'll put it like this. I don't think it's fixable. A lot of people, it's just like I said, you go out with a friend and they do something and you're like, oh crap, that's messed up. That person, you don't go back and say, okay, let's move on next week. You're like, that's just not the kind of person I want to be associated with. We've all had that happen. I think the Democrats with Gaza, with a lot of people in their base, looked at this and said, these are not the kind of people that I would ever support or be associated with. This is kind of sickening. When men, women, or children are being killed like this, there's no excuses. You just have to stop it and then deal with whatever political issues later. So there are a lot of people that will never come back to the Democratic Party over Gaza.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yeah. No, and that's good. And we're seeing people stand up and have that principle come into play, that courage. We talk about courage today. These are principles that people we're seeing them come out of people now. And it's great to see that. And we need more of it. But again, there's still going to be people that double down. They throw away. They don't want to notice what their friend did. You mentioned as a friend, you can walk away. Maybe you can't do that to a family member. Maybe you can't do it to a parent. So maybe people look at it as like their democratic overlords or their parents, and if they stand up to abusive dad, they're gonna suffer the consequences. They're gonna have to they're gonna run away and move out and be an orphan. So they have to stay. They have to tough it out. They have to ignore it. They have to ignore when dad gets drunk and beats up mom. They have to just ignore it and say, I have to tough it out. And they're scarred from this stuff. At some point, they have to deal with this trauma. They're going to have to stand up and say, enough is enough. But like you say, yeah, people are saying that about Gaza. It certainly is a breaking point for a lot of people. But to say that I'm done with the Democratic Party because of Gaza, you're also saying something bigger. You're saying that the entire system is corrupt, that both parties are funding this genocide, because Trump's not coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to stop this thing. He's going all in on Israel. And so you start to understand that all of our politicians are in the pockets with AIPAC. And so it's a larger statement, and it takes a lot more courage to say the entire system is rigged. I'm out. And so I think we just need to get that courage out of people. And we are seeing it. So I am hopeful. I'm hopeful we're going in the right direction, Garland, moving forward.
I think I'm with you. I like to be hopeful, and I like to be positive, and I like to always take a long-term view, because what happens is something happens and a lot of people go, that's it, we're screwed. And I say, well, the old saying, this too shall pass. As terrible as things are, history moves forward. And there are people right now with the Syria thing who are like, oh my gosh, that's it, it's terrible. And I like, yes, it's bad news. It's horrible. And mainly it's horrible for the Syrians, because now they got to live with these damn ISIS people or whatever. The future moves ahead, right? And hopefully, the one thing I can say is maybe people will learn from this. I think the Israelis and the Turks and the people who did this are going to be really, really sorry that they got an unstable wild wasteland right on their border, man, with all kind of ISIS people running around. You don't want those people next door, because it's going to bleed over and they're going to find out. But let me ask you this. I think right now there's this period of time, I've been talking about it, between when Trump won and between when he takes office, right? That the neocons and the rest of these people have just thrown off the mask, where they're like, okay, we had to try to pretend like we were the nice guys. Crap, we got 2 months before Trump comes in, and we can do, and now we're like, well, let's overthrow countries, let's do this, let's kill people, let's blow things up. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? Attack them to Russia, go for it. Where they're just like in a frantic frenzy to do every evil thing that they ever wanted to do, but they had to try to pretend like they were the nice guys. And now they got this little break period of time till January 20th, where they don't even have to, hey, their parties collapsed. What the hell? They don't have to, including some of the Republicans, whose parties I would argue have also collapsed. And Trump being in the main, because the main party is not Republican or Democrat, and the main party didn't want Trump. What Trump will do is a whole different thing, but they saw him as something different and they fear him. But we got this very dangerous period of time right now where they're firing missiles at Russia. They literally, if you follow South Korea, these maggots were behind trying to declare martial law in South Korea, which tells me they were probably going to try to start a war with North Korea if they'd have got away with it. Overthrowing countries. Syria probably ain't the last. God only knows. They'll probably try to overthrow Mexico, Canada, and Greenland, the hell, if they can get away with it. Anyway, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is the window where they're doubling down. They're going into the high speed mode. As much money as they can funnel into the military-industrial complex. The money, I think they just put they just approved another $50 million loan to Ukraine.
20 billion.
Yeah. Oh, was it? Oh man, but like they're calling it a loan. We're not getting it back. Come on. But as much as they can do it, as much as they can funnel into that, they're doing it and starting any possible new war they possibly can to leave Trump with a very, very big load of problems. That I think that's also the thing, is give him the hardest situation possible to go into. But it's not going to get much better with Trump. I mean, he's going to double down on Iran is our next problem. Oh, look at this. Okay. Yeah, there we go. 20 billion loan.
What could that do for these poor bastards
Wow.
Kids, women, what have you, who are sleeping in tents, getting El Nino rains dropping on them, winds coming
Wow.
through, living in dangerous areas, afraid to, turn over to somebody in the next tent's going to rob them. The life of a homeless person is hell, right?
Yeah.
What would that $20 billion do
We're
for
just
people who are sick? They have no health care. Obviously, they're homeless. They don't, you know what I mean? Mental health care, all the things you could do with that to make our
mm,
society another friggin' $20 billion shot to hell. But here's what you and I both know: that loan ain't for Ukraine.
mm-mm.
That loan is going to be laundered amongst the hands of these crooked bastards.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And yeah, and like we hear about, because obviously we have the natural disaster, we have the hurricane issues, we have the North Carolina, we got the Lahaina thing never got solved. People got $750, so I hear a lot of those people. We were out in Lahaina covering that one last year. And we saw when Biden showed up and just here's $750, I gotta go. And you're just like, man, a lot of those people were like, why are you giving help to Ukraine? Why are you giving help and not help to us? And we have to correct them and say, if it's any consolation, they're not helping Ukraine either. It's money for war. It's money. It's no one's getting help. So if that's any consolation, we're actually not helping anyone anywhere. So no one's getting help. But that, yeah, like you said, that money, it's going to, I would quote Lindsey Graham, down to the last Ukrainian. That's what we're doing. It's going to murdering Ukrainians, because if you cut off the money, you cut off the war, you cut off the killing. So the money is directly related to the number of deaths. And they're running out of people. And 600,000 dead Ukrainians now. They're trying to get the age down, the recruiting age down to 18. Recruit as in forced draft. They've tried to get women to sign up
Kidnapping.
now. I mean, it's insane. It's insane where they're at right now. But that money is not helping anyone. That's the point.
And you know what? I'll be honest with you. The way these people are, again, I'm not like some kind of a Trump fan or not anything like that. I'm an independent person to the left of all of these parties, but I'm not even sure that Trump's ever going to be allowed to take office. I'm
Mm,
not sure that Trump's going to live to take office. You know what I mean? I'm at this point, when you have these people as desperate as they are and as despicable as they are, if they see him as a threat, I don't know if they do or not. If they see him as a threat, I don't know. Do you think I'm going too far? I don't put anything past these people.
there's been a lot of buzz that he's needs to be very low key right now. He's been hanging out in Mar-a-Lago. I mean, we know there's certainly a chance that there could be another hit attempt on him. So yeah, I would not be surprised if they tried it again on him. We'll have to see. But yeah, we've seen it before. This isn't some random idea that we're coming up with. That we've seen them try this before on him. So yeah, this is a very, very delicate time right now. We're coming up on Christmas. You got basically most of January coming up. So we basically have like a month and change right now. Anything can happen right now. So not to mention we're this close to World War III on like 3 different fronts. So there's that too. So yeah, I hope we can all make it to January 20th, let alone Trump.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I don't know. Did you follow what happened in South Korea?
Yeah, we had Caleb Maupin came on and spoke on with us with Craig Pasta, Dardula, and myself last week on the issue. It's pretty wild what's going on
It
there. Yeah,
really is.
yeah,
And it's obvious that, if you understand South Korea, you know that it's a colony. You know that the US created South Korea. South Korea has no independence or sovereignty. It's just does what it's told, right?
yeah.
And to me, there is just no way the president of South Korea declares martial law, sends paratroopers to parliament to block it, surrounds it with police. You know what I mean? That he goes to that level. There ain't no way in hell that he did that without, of course, Biden don't even know what day it is, without Tony Blinken and Sullivan and those guys saying, we want you to do this. We're going to take, and I think part of it is 80% of people, of the South Koreans, they don't want to send weapons to Ukraine. They don't want to get involved in that crap. They just want to, they're like everybody else. They just want a life for them and their children, right? And I think that they were planning on declaring martial law and maybe some kind of attack on, you know, North Korea, some kind of violence, some kind of war they were about to kick up there. And, you know, I don't think that we're out of the woods yet with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely not out of the woods there. And like you said about Biden, he's just going through the motions. It's not actually him. So when we talk about Biden, it's not actually him. It's his handlers, and he's just the guy in the desk. He's just the guy that has to go on camera once in a while and hopefully complete a sentence. That's it. But he's 100% controllable. Kamala is 100% controllable. Every president has been 100% controllable since JFK. So when you look at Trump, you say, look, what good can he actually do? Well, we look at the percentage and we say, if 95% of the time he is controllable and only 5% of the time he's not, that 5% they are furious about. They do not, the overlords, the ruling class will settle for nothing less than 100% controllable. So if you have a guy like Trump who's only maybe 95% controllable, that 5%, they have to stop it at any cost, because that's not okay. You can't have a sitting president going on Fox News and saying, we're not so good ourselves, Bill O'Reilly. You talk about Putin's bad, we ain't so good ourselves. You can't do that. That's not acceptable in our Western imperialism system, capitalist system here that we've had in place. JFK was the last person to stand up against anything, and every president has been aligned since. So if we can get that 5%, I hope we do. I hope we get just 5% of challenging that. It's better than what we've had, and it might keep us all alive, frankly. So I hope we can get to that January 20th and see if, just fingers crossed, that Trump gets at least that 5% done for us.
Yeah. If he ends one war, if he wants to end the Ukraine, and they're like, oh, well, Trump, I'm like, I'll take that. Nobody, I don't know if he will or he won't. Or I'll put it like this. He wants to talk to the Russians. I'll take that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? If you're willing to do diplomacy, right? That's if he does nothing else but says, I'm going to do diplomacy with the Russians. You know what? That might keep us from getting nuked.
Yeah.
Diplomacy at least is a start. With the Biden team, with the neocons we got now, you can't get that. Again, this is not a pro-Trump thing. This is like, we're just trying to stay alive here.
Yeah.
Really.
Exactly.
And if we can get like you said, if he wants to get that done, if he tries to get that done, if he comes up with some kind of a deal somewhere, anything, something is better than nothing. That's all I'm saying. And unfortunately, there are people who get mad if you even say that. They're like, oh, you're supporting Trump. He's just like everybody. If he really were just like everybody else, they wouldn't have been shooting at him, right? As you said, there's something somewhere that they're like, crap. I mean, $20 billion loan. And you and I know this. What percentage of that is going to Ukraine? 1%. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's going to Lockheed Martin. It's going here. And then when it gets to Ukraine, explain to me why the Ukrainian government were like, we need billions of dollars because we've got to buy tanks and rounds and things like that. But they were taking a portion of the money, we don't know how much, and putting into a crypto account. The one with Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
So we're sending them billions of dollars, supposedly, and they're laundering it into a crypto account. And this crypto company has a back door where they can shuffle money out the back door and nobody can ever figure out where it went. And I'm like, why didn't that surprise me? Thought on that.
Yeah, no, that's following that paper trail, and then you can throw Nancy Pelosi into the discussion and all the insider trading and all the millions and millions of dollars. They're all connected. It's all one big money laundering scheme. We had a meme we showed on the show. It's pretty. You got Biden literally in a laundry mat, and he's got like bags of cash, and he's like waiting by the dryer to come on, we're gonna get this cash go. But yeah, all of this stuff, all this insider trading, all the Sam Bankman-Fried, all this stuff, they're all connected through this money laundering scheme that the media doesn't do their job and tell us this. Like, we have to go find this out ourselves. You think that they would be first to report on it, but then we can get into that discussion. Why we have to have these shows and these discussions going is because the mainstream media protects all that. They protect all that insider trading. They still elevate Nancy Pelosi as this person she's going to tear up that speech in front of Trump and oh, what a great person. And show us her ice cream that she eats in the middle of the morning in her big fridge while nobody has health care and nobody has a living wage and homelessness everywhere. So yeah, it's all one big protected elite group that the media protects. They do nothing of reporting the truth, and that's why we have to get to it, and why we do this stuff every week that we got to do. But we wouldn't be doing this if they did their job. I know I wouldn't be doing this if the media, if you could turn on Rachel Maddow and turn on Anderson Cooper and they could actually tell us this stuff. I guess we don't have to actually do this work ourselves because they're being honest. But no, they don't. So that's why we're doing this.
Well, I'll put it like this. We've seen a pardon for Hunter Biden. They're talking about sweeping pardons for Schiff and Fauci and all that kind of stuff. I have a funny feeling there's a whole lot of pardons coming down the pike within the next month or so. If they leave peacefully, which we don't even know they're going to do that, but if they leave peacefully, Joe Biden is going to pardon all the FBI people like Comey. He's going to pardon Pelosi. He's going to pardon the hell. There will be more pardons coming down the pike for Joe Biden and his circle than we've ever seen in life. And he has to, because they're all crooked. And I think they're just afraid Trump will investigate. Here's what they know: if anybody investigates them with an honest investigation, you'll find out they're all crooked. Your last word on the pardons, and then we'll run. Your thoughts?
Okay. Actually, I see it freezing up. Let me come in and out, and I'll give the last thought on that, if that's cool.
Let's do that. We're going to remove you, and we're going to... Yeah, we're jumping in and out, but we found a way. This thing's working some kind of way. All righty. There we go. Okay, your last thought on the pardons.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're scared to death on what Trump will be doing when he gets in, if he gets in. Right. Scared to death, and that's why you have this pardon on Hunter. It's not just a pardon on Hunter; it's a pardon on himself too. And you look at the timeline, the 11 years that it's given. All the interesting timeline. I didn't see 11-year clock. That's a very interesting number, huh? That takes us back to 2014. So all of the bad stuff from Ukraine, everything protected there. Now we're hearing about. There's going to be pardons on Fauci. There's going to be pardons on some other people. And we're like, what is happening here? They're scared to death of what Trump's going to do. Now, look, we heard him on the interview, and Trump said, look, I'm not necessarily going to be spending my time going after my political adversaries the way Biden did, the way Biden captured the judicial system and used it against me. I'm going to take the high road on this. There's other stuff I have to do with my time. I only got 24 hours in the day. There's a lot of presidenting to do. And you know what? The truth is out, and I don't have to necessarily do this. So the fact that he's even willing to take the high road on some of these, or at least he's saying that right now, is very interesting. It really shows the massive difference between these two parties right now in that regard, in how they function in their positions of power, the way Trump functions, the way Biden functions. And so, yeah, if the American people, history will show us that it was the Biden administration that capture the judicial system and use it against his political adversaries. I don't think Trump wants to be looked at that same way. He might go after a couple of people. He might let his new FBI director do most of the work while he does what he needs to do. So Biden and his team is scared to death right now. So hopefully we won't see too many of these crazy pardons, because I want to have them held accountable. I want to see justice done.
Yeah, I'm with you. Schiff's name, and people were like, why Schiff? And I'm like, I know why Adam Schiff, because of the Russiagate stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that some of the Trump people said was, apparently, I was reading the other day, the Trump people say, we already got a list of a bunch of people who leaked information during Russiagate to go after Trump, that they had classified, and they had internal information, and they illegally leaked it to the New York Times, the usual Washington Post, the usual hit jobs, right? And Adam Schiff, he was Joe Leaker, So I guarantee he's getting a pardon, because he was leaking every day. And then Schiff said, no, I don't want a pardon. Yeah, I'll believe that. On the last day, he's going to get a pardon, because he was illegally leaking. Comey, Comey and Ray, they're getting pardons. Blinken, Mr. 50, the guy who did the 51 intelligence agents who think that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
He guarantee he is. Jake Sullivan worked for the Hillary Clinton team and was all on the Russiagate stuff. So these people, as I said, at this point, they don't care. They're like, we're out anyway. What difference does it? Are we criminals? Who cares? Our party has been dashed to pieces. They ain't winning anything most likely anytime soon. Who cares? We're going to fill our pockets. We're going to take care of ourselves, and we're out the door. Matt, tell people where everybody can find you online.
You can find me on Rumble on The Homeless Left. That's Rumble's where we can have these discussions. And, I know we're on YouTube right now. It's been a while for me on YouTube because we've had our issues there. The channel got terminated, just to be clear. So you guys know, we got terminated for having these discussions. So yeah, if you want to have see more of these discussions unfiltered, we're on Rumble. You can follow me on Twitter on Matt Weinglass, and The Homeless Left on Twitter as well. So yeah, unfiltered discussions.
All right. Thanks a lot, buddy. All right, everybody. Don't forget, follow Matt Weinglass on Rumble. Follow me on Rumble also. Follow me on Rockfin also, because as you know, in the same way that his channel got terminated, any of us, if we say the wrong thing on a given day, we are out of here. So follow me all over. You see everything sliding across the bottom. If you can afford to contribute to the channel, that's certainly fine, certainly appreciated. If you can, just share this on all your social media platforms. It's very important that we all work together as a well-oiled machine, whether it's Matt's or mine or whoever, whichever ones you like. If you find one that you like, I recommend, if you find alternative media and you like it, share it regularly on your social media platforms. Also, if you find, even if it's a show you don't watch that much on alternative media, but you find a particular one you're like, oh, that's an important one, make sure you share that one. We've got to all work together. We don't have NBC News or ABC News or any of that stuff. So we are the team. All of us, me and Matt and you guys in the chat, we're the team that makes this happen. So let's keep it going. Thanks a lot. We're out. Hold on a second here, Matt.